President of Gibson, Ted McCarty, said that he had suggested the semi-solid guitars. I came up with the idea of putting the block of wood down the middle, like a solid body guitar, with wings instead of wood out there. The block made it stiffer, so it had a brighter tone than an acoustic would. It looked like an acoustic, but it wasn't acoustic. It was an electric. Gibson revealed the 335 to dealers in the company's magazine, the Gibson Gazette, in February of 1958. The headline announced, "A new ES-335T Spanish guitar," along with a black and white photo of the guitar. A semi-solid guitar was a completely new design. The idea of McCarty's was truly unique, and it was uniquely Gibson's. The first guitar appeared in the March catalog, with the very first 335 rolling off the production line on April 21, 1958. The standard sunburst finish listed for $267.50, and the natural or blonde finish was $282.50. A brown lift-in case was offered for an additional $46.50. 55 were slated to have upscale fingerboard inlays and hardware, explaining why the 335 had to keep the dots for now. Late in the 58 model year, binding was added to the 335 to give the fingerboard a little bit more finished look. The earliest guitars had a thinner 3-ply laminate. This was changed to a 4-ply late in 58. During this time, the neck angle was also increased slightly. The early tops often exhibited a crack near the output jack, and this is likely why Gibson switched to the 4-ply. Very early 58s have a slightly more pointed cutaways, which by the fall of the year had become rounded to what is commonly now referred to as the Mickey Mouse ears, so very desirable among collectors. In 1959, Gibson made a few other changes, which added together make this the most desirable model year. The fret size was increased slightly, and the neck profile was also increased, like what we see on Les Pauls. However, Gibson changed the plastic it used in the Tulip tuners in 59, for the worse, often leading to problems as they age. The guitars were officially the ES-335TD for the Sunburst and ES-335TDN for Natural, T for thin line, the D for double pickup, and the N for natural. By the end of 1958, Gibson had moved forward with the flagship 355. They described it as Gibson's beautifully cherry red ES-355T, the ultimate in a double cutaway, thin line, model jazz guitar. The 355 had an ebony fingerboard with pearl black inlays. It shipped with a Bigsby vibrato, and all the hardware was gold-plated. Rounding out its upscale appointments, it had a faux tortoiseshell pickguard, and it had multiply binding. And rather than the crown inlay, the headstock was graced with the split diamond. The cherry finish was created by staining the wood red, and then adding successive clear coat layers over the top. Incidentally, the earliest guitars are more prone to fading than the later ones. The stereo 345 was brought out in the early months of 59. Gibson ran a number of events dubbed the Sounds of the Future to promote the 345. The Gibson Gazette trumpeted the first true stereophonic sound for the guitar. Though Gibson crowed about their stereo innovation, Gretsch had actually filed a patent for a stereo guitar back in 56, and Rickenbacker had launched its Ricka sound system in 58. But stereo was a new technology at the time, and many companies were trying to associate themselves with it. The Gibson system had a single stereo output jack. A Y cable was supplied with the 345 to split the output into two mono jacks, which could then be attached to either two separate amp channels or to two separate amplifiers. Around this time, Gibson also released stereo amplifiers to take full advantage of the 345 stereo capabilities. Also on the 345, we see the Veritone circuit.